Well, President Biden has announced that he is going to pardon more people than any president in history. Many of them are criminals. Some of them are spies from other countries. All of it is a little bit confusing. To help me go through this and other big stories, I have Brianna Lyman. Brianna, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So just some background for my audience. Brianna is a journalist over at the Federalist. If you don't know what the Federalist is, it is such a great news organization. I first found the Federalist in 2020 after the election when Joe Biden magically lost 18 of the 19 bellwethers and still became president of the United States. An absolute Christmas miracle like we've never seen and likely never will see again. So I like the work of the Federalist. I've had several journalists from your organization. One thing I wanted to jump in with you, Brianna, is one of Trump's big promises has been to pardon and release J6 prisoners. The FBI refuses to admit that they had people on the ground. FBI head Christopher Wray has actively blocked Congress from knowing what was happening that day. Ghost busts, people in MAGA gear. But now you've got FBI agents requesting reimbursement for traveling and being there that day. What are your thoughts on Trump and this, what appears to be an FBI cover-up?
Yeah, look, it sounds a little like entrapment. There's a report that just came out recently showing that there were, I think, more than a dozen FBI agents in that January 6th crowd, some of which entered the Capitol building, if I am remembering that correctly. And the reason that's concerning is because the entire past 4 years, we have seen the propaganda press malign every single person who was present that day, including people who were nonviolent, right? People who literally were standing outside nonviolent. And the FBI has waged just this massive campaign to target them, to get them, and in many cases to throw them into jail. And again, we're talking in a lot of instances of non-violent offenders. And Donald Trump has been very clear. In his Time interview, he said, look, I'm going to look at this as a case-by-case basis. We'd love to help people who are nonviolent, of course, who shouldn't be having this treatment. And then they're going to look at the people who are accused of being violent and see what actually happened. Because all of this comes across as political persecution. Because here you have an FBI that apparently has not been able to identify the DNC pipe bomber, but they have been able to track down meticulously thousands of people on January 6th. Why are their priorities so focused on one instance?
Yeah, good point. Do you think Christopher Wray, his like go-to thing up on the Hill testifying before Congress is, I probably shouldn't say much. We've got this active investigation. I mean, to me, it seems like such a cover-up. With Kash Patel coming in, do you think that we will actually get to the truth of what happened on that day?
I really do believe so. I think Donald Trump's incoming cabinet is a chance for America to realign itself. It's a chance to inform agencies like the FBI and what have you that they don't get to just become the fourth branch of government and make these unilateral decisions, right? They are incumbent or beholden, at least to some extent, to the executive branch. I actually would hope that DOJ would get rid of some of these agencies because they don't have a constitutional function. And I'm all for making the government as small as possible and to be as constrained to the Constitution as possible. But I do think that Kash Patel, I think Pam Bondi, I think they will work to get to the bottom of political persecutions, what happened, and make sure that that doesn't happen again, at least while Republicans are in office.
Okay. You mentioned that Trump said that they would go case by case, and he would start with the nonviolent. But with Biden doing this unprecedented pardoning for an 11-year period of his son during active criminal investigations where he looks guilty as all get out. Do you think they may actually go into January 20th and just take a blanket approach and just wipe everybody's record out?
They might. I think there's a good chance of them doing that. I do think Donald Trump is a man of his word, and I do believe that they will go case by case. I'm happy you brought up the Hunter Biden thing, because what Joe Biden said in announcing this pardon is that his Department of Justice is corrupt and politicized. It's something we've been saying for years. I'm happy he's finally on the same page as us. But what he gets wrong is that his Department of Justice was politicized, yes, and it is corrupt, yes. But Hunter Biden was not a victim. He was a beneficiary of that type of Department of Justice. January 6th protesters, on the other hand, were victims. Parents at school board meetings were victims, and Donald Trump himself was a victim. And while we're talking about pardons, you mentioned this when we just started, Joe Biden announcing a bunch of these pardons. What's really interesting is the Chinese spies that you're alluding to, they weren't part of this recent set. They were pardoned on November 22nd, and it was really quiet. And you wonder, okay, why was it quiet? Well, some reports say it was part of a swap between American prisoners held in China and Chinese individuals held here. But every time we've had a prisoner swap, Brittany Griner, Paul Whelan, there has been, fanfare and the pomp and circumstance, press releases. Why would Biden be so quiet about a prisoner swap if it's such a great deal when it involves Chinese spies?
Good point. Yeah, I saw that he was commuting sentences, and I didn't consider the fact that it could be like a prisoner swap. But you're right; they've always been very braggadocious, wanting the pat on the back. With this one, they've gone quiet, right? And many have said that maybe Biden is compromised with China because of Hunter's dealings. Maybe Xi Jinping has something over the American president. I guess we won't know. Going back to Kash Patel, do you think Trump will also encourage him to investigate Mar-a-Lago being raided? The fact that the FBI, was basically sicked on the Trump family, that they were told that they should go in with guns drawn. They had dozens and dozens of armed agents. Lawyers were told to leave the premises. If not, to at least turn off the security cameras. We then find out that they were going through the former First Lady's underwear drawer. I mean, really weird things. Do you think he instructs Kash Patel to get to the bottom of that?
I hope so, for two reasons. Because we also later found out, for instance, a lot of the images that we saw about the documents being strewn all over the floor, those were actually set up by the government, right? That wasn't Donald Trump who just threw papers and left them there. And the reason that you'd want this to be investigated isn't because Donald Trump is looking for, retribution. That's what you've heard throughout the propaganda press. It's because you want to make sure, you want to weed out who in this FBI, Department of Justice, any other government agency involved, who was giving these orders to carry out this political persecution. And the reason you need to know that is because you have to get them out of the agency. That is not an American patriot, right? That is a danger to this country, because that is someone who was willing, whether they created the orders themselves or took orders from someone else, to fundamentally damage this country because they want to target their political opponent. That is lawfare. Donald Trump was a victim of lawfare. And if it happens to Donald Trump, we've seen it happen. Like I said, parents at school board meetings, praying people outside abortion clinics, right? It can happen to them too. So you have to make sure that you get a grip on what went wrong these past 4 years and really just root out the cause of all these problems.
Yeah. Let's talk about the border. Obviously, under Kamala Harris and Biden, over 15 million people have illegally come into the country. Trump says day one, this is like the number one thing that he wants to focus on. He's brought in Tom Homan, who seems like a bulldog. I've had him on the show twice. But he said after a Christmas party a couple of days ago that his first focus is actually going to be Democrat strongholds, cities where mayors are threatening to block Trump's agenda, sanctuary states. He seems determined to go after these areas first. Meanwhile, these Democrat leaders are saying they're going to use hundreds of millions of dollars of your money and my money, taxpayer money, to fight to keep these illegals in their cities. What are your thoughts on Tom Homan, his new approach, and these mayors and governors using taxpayer money to keep people here illegally?
Well, these mayors and governors, this is dereliction of duty. It's an affront to the Constitution, and it's an insult to their own constituents. What gets me the most when I talk about illegal immigration is this. America is more than just a country that people can come and make money and ship it back to their family who's still in Mexico or Venezuela, wherever they come from, right? China, Russia, the whole nine. America is a place of a specific culture, a specific language, specific ideals. There's a common thread between all of us, or at least there should be. But when you treat America as though it is a pit stop and it's okay for millions of people to come across this border and we'll just reward them with amnesty, you are diluting what it means to be American. And once you dilute that too much, you lose what it means to be American, and you don't have a country or a culture. You go to any other country in the world, right? You go to France, you go to Germany. There's German culture, there's French culture. It's very tangible. You could pinpoint specifics of it. You're getting to the point in America where it's hard to pinpoint specifics of American culture because it's being diluted by mass illegal immigration and also just by people on the left who hate America and want to just change it fundamentally. Also, the other thing with Tom Homan, this is a man who is angry. I watched an interview he did recently, and he said, I wake up every day mad at the left. That is so important to have someone with that kind of tenacity and that really strong belief, because that means they're going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. And I think Donald Trump is stacking his administration with people who feel similarly. The last point I'd make about illegal immigration, we have to get them out, most importantly, because they are included in the census. When you have a census that includes illegal immigrants and they're being dumped in Democrat strongholds, that fundamentally alters the balance of Congress eventually, right? You pick up a seat in a blue state, you lose a seat in a red state. And the people who don't deserve representation because they shouldn't be here because they're illegal are now actually having some real, tangible impact in American politics. They may not be voting, but they're certainly impacting how many Democrats or Republicans are in Congress.
Are you feeling the stress about giving your family a memorable holiday? You're not alone. Prices remain higher than ever, and a lot of us are maxing out our credit cards. Now is the perfect time to take control of your finances and pay off that debt. If you're a homeowner, American Financing can help you unlock the equity in your home and start saving. Their customers save $800 a month on average. Just imagine what that can mean for your family. Plus, if you act now, you may even be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you extra cash for the holiday season. Wouldn't it be nice to start off the new year without that debt and those monthly payments? It costs nothing to find out how much you could save. The holidays are here before we know it, and you should reach out to American Financing to learn more about that today. You can call them at 888-686-8030. That's 888-686-8030, or go to americanfinancing.net/Gardner. If you have home equity, check them out today. Okay. Yeah. Let me put something up on the screen, and then we'll talk about it here. Let's see. Can you let's see.
I can see it.
There we go. Okay. So this is just breaking right now, Brianna. The IG report about January 6th that they purposely withheld until after the election is coming out. They're saying 26 FBI undercover assets present at January 6th.
And we are the conspiracy theorists for having said that for 4 years. Just remember the way that they maligned conservatives who raised the possibility that our government could do something nefarious.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got now Fox News breaking. Inspector General report just revealed there were at least 26 FBI informants on the Capitol grounds on January 6th. At least 3 of them entered the Capitol building. We've been lied to. Accountability is coming. But look at this. I go down to CNN. No undercover FBI agents were at the U.S. Capitol during the insurrection, the Justice Department found. What the heck? I'm more inclined to, I hate to say this, but I'm more inclined to believe Fox News than CNN. We're gonna have to dig into this report, but this is breaking just right now as you and I are speaking.
Yeah, I would love to see the difference in reporting. And like you said, I'm more inclined to trust any conservative leaning outlet. Fox is just straight news to me. They don't even try to pick a side. So I'm more inclined to, of course, trust them than CNN. But CNN has a pony in this race, right? Because if they were to admit, there were 26 undercover FBI agents, what does that say about their credibility when the past 4 years they have spoken down to Americans and said, that's untrue. That's a conspiracy theorist. You're a right-wing nut job, right? They have to cover their own tracks. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll have to each individually dig into that. I did think it was somewhat interesting that, they say there's nobody there, and yet you have people requesting to have receipts reimbursed for being there. You have a report that there were so many people from the FBI there that they literally had to do an internal audit and ask people to self-identify because they didn't know how many people were there. So, we've just been lied to so many times about January 6th. I, for one, would just like to get to the truth. Now, Kash Patel, the new FBI director, he gave sworn testimony that Donald Trump ordered 10,000 National Guard people there. Later, General Mark Milley admitted that was true. Muriel Bowser put it in writing. Nancy Pelosi continues to deny it. You think we ever get to the truth, or is this just as mysterious as Joe Biden losing 18 of the 19 bellwethers and still becoming president?
Well, I'll tell you, if Joe Biden gives a preemptive pardon to people like Liz Cheney, we will absolutely be further from reaching the truth, because the January 6th committee, that was a sham committee set up by Democrats and rhinos who wanted something to pin Donald Trump to, because every other previous effort failed, in part because Kash Patel, for instance, he unraveled the entire Russia collusion hoax. So when we think of the January 6th committee, they hid evidence, they lied. You think of the handwritten note. I'm drawing a blank on her name. Was it Cassidy Hutchins, I think, who claimed to write the note, and it turns out it was never written by her? That was Liz Cheney's star witness. And so the Democrats and the propaganda press were only emboldened to keep maligning January 6th protesters and spreading these sensational claims about Donald Trump trying to overthrow democracy, because they had a congressional group who was saying, oh yeah, keep going, look at all this horrific stuff. And the reason I think there was such a big focus on January 6th these past few years is they knew that Joe Biden did not have a leg to stand on. He had no good policy. He actually destroyed this country, particularly in his first 2 years. But it was great to have the January 6th thing to say, yeah, inflation's bad, but look at January 6th. Come on, guys, look at this commission.
Yeah. Oh, we've just been gaslit so much. It's like, you don't know what the truth is. What are your thoughts on Trump saying he wants to end birthright citizenship? I know that there's been legal scholars going back and forth. Yes, he can. No, he can't. This is racist. This is xenophobic. This is misogynist. Every ist they can think of. But what are your thoughts on him saying, no, we can't incentivize people to break into the country and have a baby so that they can then stay here and have a great American life?
Yeah, and this goes back to the idea of treating America as either like a pit stop or just a strip mall where it's, just like a business transaction. Oh, I got in, I have a baby, I'm good, right? It's like, oh, I got into the store, paid my dues, I'm good, I can stay here. The 14th Amendment was written in particular to give citizenship to formerly enslaved persons and their descendants. The idea that the 14th Amendment should then be construed to allow so-called anchor babies to come here, or people to come here and have anchor babies, is really a disservice, not only, again, to the American people, but it's insulting to the people the 14th Amendment was targeting, which is enslaved persons and their descendants. And a lot of people constantly say, well, the Supreme Court has adjudicated this. They never have. The Supreme Court has only answered the case of children born in the United States to parents who are legally residing here but not yet citizens. That is United States versus Wong Kim Ark. There have been other court decisions in which they've touched upon, okay, what does it mean to be subject to the jurisdiction thereof, which is language in the amendment. But they've never been presented with the question, is a child born to illegal immigrants a citizen? And so I think there is a lot of need for clarification, whether it's from Congress saying, okay, here's what subject to the jurisdiction thereof means, or for the Supreme Court to get a case about this, which may come if Donald Trump has, mass deportations, and say, this is what the 14th Amendment means. So I'm hoping for clarification over the next 4 years.
And don't you think people are going to see it based on their political ideology? For example, I could very easily see Republicans saying, no, you can't just come here, have a baby, and become an American citizen. And I can see Democrats saying, of course you can. We need future voters. There's just been so many things regarding, the situation with illegal immigrants that the Democrats are just so pro illegal immigrants. I don't even know how to wrap my mind around it. Like, I think America is proud that we're a nation of immigrants, but I don't think we like being a nation of illegal immigrants. I think there's a huge difference in our mind.
There is a huge difference. Joe Biden in the past 4 years has let in more illegal immigrants than through Ellis Island legally during its entire operating time frame. That is concerning because, once again, you have people who are just simply unvetted. We've heard this a million times, but it's just as salient. Unvetted people on the FBI terror watch list, people who come here and they rape and they murder our young women who go on jobs, right? That is simply unacceptable. Let's pretend, though, that we don't have violent criminals. We just have all the criminals who broke the law and came here illegally, right? Because most of them say they have an asylum claim. Asylum claims are often found to not be legitimate, and they're supposed to be sent back. There's more than 1 million individuals in this country here illegally right now that have been ordered to be removed. They're still here. So there are levels for Donald Trump to approach this, right? You first remove the people who have been ordered by a court to get out. And then you need to expedite the process of getting the rest of them out because most don't have legitimate asylum claims. And Democrats have a very big soft spot for illegal immigration for 2 reasons. 1, it's the apportionment for Congress, like I mentioned earlier. 2, when you talk of amnesty, you grant someone amnesty, are they going to be allowed to vote if they become a citizen, right? You're importing an entire class of potential voters. People think when Republicans talk about illegals voting, they think, Republicans think 1 million illegals just voted in November. No, we don't think that. But we think that if they're given amnesty in 5 years, they will be able to vote because they are a citizen. And who are they going to vote for? The party that let them stay here or the party that wanted to kick them out?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious there, right? How they would vote. Okay, Biden is on his way out. He's trying to instigate World War III by allowing Ukraine to attack Russia. He's supporting money to Africa, money to Syria, but no money to North Carolina. And then now, today, I read that he's doing a fire sale liquidating border wall supplies for pennies on the dollar, so that Donald Trump can't fulfill his mandate to close and seal the border. What are your thoughts on Biden? This is so childish to me to try to block the incoming president from fixing the border, the number one thing that people wanted, the safety that people want, by selling off those materials for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, that was a great report by James Lolino. And what's interesting here is we heard up until November 5th, so probably from maybe May or June, that Democrats care about the border. They are tough on the border. Kamala Harris, the career prosecutor, is going to come in and be tough on that border. We're going to close that border, stop illegal immigration. And then they lose the election, and suddenly it's, you can't deport illegal immigrants. We're going to sell off anything to make the border wall possibly happen, and we're going to fight for amnesty. So if that doesn't prove to the Democratic base and independent voters that Democrats are just willing to lie straight to your face, and if they win the election, they'll have a better excuse. If they lose the election, they're just going to resort right back to their old talking points. Yeah.
It's like whatever Trump wants to do, they want to stir up chaos, I'm sure you guys have talked about this at the Federalist and covered this, but now you've got Russia ready to just decimate Ukraine. They've already done, so much damage in the area. You have Trump saying, let's end the war. You have Biden saying, let's escalate the war. You have Trump saying, no more weapons, no more money, no boots on the ground. Biden is pushing for all of that. From your perspective, do you believe that he is trying to create more chaos for Trump's first 100 days in office?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Getting us entangled in foreign affairs is probably harder to take ourselves out of than if he creates a domestic issue, so to speak, right? Because other countries now relying on us. If Joe Biden makes pacts with other countries, Donald Trump was the only president in which no foreign war started under him. And people, I think, took that for granted. And Joe Biden wants to pretend that we are fighting or we are helping Ukraine fight this war because it benefits us. But I will tell you, I am tired of fighting wars for people that are not us with money that is not theirs, saying that we are going to forgive all of that money, sending over ammunition, talking about giving them weaponry that they probably shouldn't have. And what's really concerning, and I think it was the New York Times, but don't quote me on that. I read a report maybe about a year ago, and it basically said that there was no actual evidence to support the government's claim that if Vladimir Putin got the parts of Ukraine that he wants, that he would continue into Ukraine and take even more. They had no evidence to support that. So for all intents and purposes, it seemed that Vladimir Putin wants the specific piece of land that they've been fighting over and would stop there. Now, it's not to say he wouldn't change his mind or down the road he wouldn't make more inroads into Ukraine. But for the time being, that is the lie that was sold to the American public. Well, we have to stop Vladimir Putin or he's never going to stop. They had nothing to say that, but that was just a good excuse to justify why they were sending our tax dollars to Ukraine. That is the extent to which the propaganda press and the Democratic Party operates together and is willing to hurt the American public. When you said, we have people in North Carolina in tents, we have people in every single state in this country who are going to go to bed tonight hungry. There is no reason why they're doing that when we have the money. We're just not utilizing it properly.
Yeah. The one just in the last week that was so confusing was like, okay, we don't have money to help North Carolina, but we've got to help this village with $1 billion in Africa.
Thomas Jefferson once said, he said, I am for a government that is rigorously frugal and simple. And the reason that the founders wanted such a limited government and had very specific purposes for taxation and didn't give it to the executive branch, they gave the power of the purse to Congress, is because they knew that, well, they hoped that congressional representatives would be very stingy with money that was not theirs. And I think politicians today are politicians rather than public servants, and they've forgotten that idea of frugal government, of a simple government, right? Our federal government should never be as big as it is now, right? The administrative state is just a bloated bureaucracy. The founders never envisioned that. And I think a lot of the problems can be tied back to this over-bloated government that we have. And the reason people don't have money is because agencies and organizations and activists who are within our government that shouldn't be there because there's no constitutional reason for them are determining and lobbying what to do with our money.
Yeah. What's that saying? Like, people are the best at not spending their own money.
Yes.
And then they won't spend they'll spend other people's money that they do know, and then they'll blow through other people's money that they don't know. And that's, I probably said that wrong, but basically, like, they don't even assume that this is money anymore because they don't even bring in enough money in taxes to cover the bills of our country. So then they just print. And so then it's like, hey, just throw in every pet project you can think of, but don't work on anything that might block you from being reelected. Heaven forbid you actually do what's right for the country. So yeah, this unlimited new monetary theory of spend us into non-existence is just so stupid to me. Hopefully Doge can get in there and make some real changes. Okay, final question for you. I appreciate you coming on. I'm going to put some direct links to your articles over at the Federalist so that people can check those out. But a year ago, I'm covering that Donald Trump has stolen classified documents. He's risked the military. He's risked CIA agents, FBI. He might even possibly be selling government secrets for hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? A billionaire needs $100,000, right? So then I'm covering a rape case. I'm covering defamation. I'm covering an accounting error that's now worthy of going to jail for all these years. I'm covering up election interference, 700 plus years in jail. And now Donald Trump is named Time Magazine's Person of the Year, and he's ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. How does this make any sense?
This is a triumph, not just for Donald Trump, but for justice. Because Donald Trump, like I said earlier, he was the victim of lawfare. They were willing to weaponize every agency at every level of the government to put their political opponent in jail, and they lost. And had they been successful in their efforts, had Donald Trump won or lost the election, or had he been thrown in jail, whatever it may be, I don't think there would be a way to come back for that as a country. And Donald Trump's comeback, which he said in his Time interviews, like, don't call it a comeback, like, I where did I go? But his comeback to the political world in that sense is really a refreshing moment for Americans, because it reminds us that there is still a lot of good in America. There are still people in America who care about the fundamentals of America, and the deep state and the globalists are not enough to tear that down, at least not yet.
Yeah. Reminds me of an old LL Cool J song. He says, I wouldn't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, right? Like, so in Donald Trump's mind, maybe he doesn't see it that way. Okay, one last question, and then I'll let you go. I appreciate you coming on. Is there any doubt in your mind that if Trump had lost, he would not be sitting in jail right now?
I 100% believe that man would be put in jail. It would be a trophy for Alvin Bragg or whoever is targeting him, Letitia James, whoever was going after him, Jack Smith. And if that's one quick thing, the fact that Jack Smith could drop the case against such a horrible person, such a threat to democracy, it tells us one of two things. Either he was lying, which is obviously the truth, or Jack Smith is about to let a mastermind criminal run this country and doesn't care and is just going to walk away and sleep easy at night, right? It can't be both. It has to be one of them. And if it's the second one, it's like, okay, more politics. Of course, we know it's the first. It was all a lie. It was persecution, not prosecution.
Yeah. I fully believe in my heart they would have come after him more aggressively. They would have thrown him in jail. They would have continued to have secret meetings, colluding, using now the Kamala Harris Department of Justice to go after him. So thank goodness he won. Brianna, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put some direct links to your most recent Federalist articles down below. If people want to follow you online, other than at the Federalist, where can I point them?
Twitter, Brianna Lyman 2, or Instagram, Brianna.Lyman.
Okay, I'll put those direct links. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Stephen, it was a pleasure. Thank you.